Hi everybody, welcome back to Geezer Rider, and this is our segment on heated gear in regard to heated pants. And this is going to be dust here a little bit. This is going to be a in-depth segment for a couple of reasons. One is, just obviously reviewing pants themselves, and the other is the particular ones that we're reviewing, why I selected them, and what their pluses and minuses are. So let's get right down to it. It's Mobile Warming is the brand. They're new and compared to people that have been around, manufacturers that have been around for a long time, like Gerbing and Tourmaster, for example. But that shouldn't diminish their presence in the market. I think they're making a good product. They're offering a lot of value. Again, I've been saying all along, most of the products I bought have been around the $149 mark for, jacket, pants, and the gloves I found for around the $100 mark. They were more of a clearance item. Watch that segment for more detail on that. And the heated insoles were about $49. And you should be able to get that price on heated insoles, or maybe prior gen heated insoles. Socks are going to be a bit more. And again, we're talking about gear that plugs in and uses your battery power on your bike, not the rechargeable battery stuff, with an exception, and that's this segment. When I get where I'm going and I'm walking around, I'm off the bike, and I always use the term rally, but any event you're going to where I'm going to be outdoors for a while, I'm dressed one of two ways, right? I'm dressed warm enough that I can tolerate the cold on the bike without any heated gear. And I'll tell you, a couple times I've gone out in the middle of winter and looked like the Michelin Man and still been cold. And then I get where I'm going and I'm just trying to undo all those layers and keep from sweating. And we've talked about why it's important not to sweat in your clothes in the winter time. You need only watch some of the History or Discovery Channel shows about people that live in the cold climates. And, I always use the example of somebody chopping wood and they take their jacket off. They're not trying to be macho. They're trying to keep from sweating. So I get where I'm going, and one of two things. I'm either peeling off clothes or I'm underdressed and, I'm cold walking around because I wore heated gear, but it can't keep me warm without power. Right? It's not relying on just the insulation that it has. It's relying on the heating elements being plugged in and operating to keep you warm. So one of the areas that would get extremely cold on me because I didn't have heated pants for a long time was the tops of my thighs. Just took forever for them to warm up. And that's a lot of surface area. The outside of your core, the large muscle mass areas getting cold are what's going to drag down your body heat. So you're looking for a way to keep them warm. So let's think for a minute about keeping your leg area warm, right? From roughly your ankle area up to the waistline warm. That's a lot of recirculating blood that's getting warmed up, that's returning back up to your core that's already warmed. And some of that heat is going to rise up, up underneath your jacket here. We're talking about, a few percent type thing, but more than nothing. So if you were able to maintain some of that heat while you were off the bike without it being too cumbersome, that would be a good thing, right? Okay, so enter the dual power 12-volt apparel line from Mobile Warming. And in this case, this is the dual power heated pants from Mobile Warming. And, obviously a big bulky package. We've got a pair of pants folded up in here. There's some diagrams and things on the outside of the package. Obviously, if you've been watching the series, this is a lot more modern than the packaging and documentation for the heated gloves and the heated insoles I bought that were prior gen stuff. So what comes with this? You obviously get this package, but you also get this package. Well, what is this package? This package is what you saw in the heated footwear segment. I was using to actually power the heated footwear for testing, and that is this 5,200 milliamp hour. This will provide 3 amps on its own. And remember, the footwear is drawing about like 1.2 amps. The gloves are drawing about 1.5 amps. So this alone could power both of those pieces on it by itself. It's rechargeable. It has a standard style port that you would plug your charger into, right? Or your heated gear into to run off of it. So, you know, the standard male end. And you're also going to charge the device off of that. And they give you the wall wart. They're not going to make you sit there with a day and a half connected to a USB connector. They give you a wall wart. It's not heavy, which means it doesn't have a transformer, which means it's a quality switching power supply. That's just my electronics background. It's one of the things I look for when I pick up something that plugs in the wall. If it's more than a couple ounces, it probably has a transformer in it. It's junk. So they invested in this thing. Nice switching power supply, LED indicator light built right into it. Nice touch. Hardly anybody does that anymore. Kudos to Mobile Warming for doing that. So you plug this into the battery pack, and then plug this into the wall, and it charges in X number of hours. And they've got a time in there in the documentation, tells you how long it needs to sit there. The documentation is not too sparse. We'll get to that in a minute. They also, when we're concentrating on the battery for a moment, they also tell you what the charge and discharge cycle is. So during the off season, you're going to need to charge this in a specific fashion from time to time. I talked about the LED being built into the wall wart, being a nice little touch. The guys are thinking, hey, you're out there on the bike. We hear you guys. We're trying to help you out. We're going to throw in a few extra things. You know, maybe you're not going to put this in the pants and walk around with the pants turned on while you're off the bike, but you might need a light, right? Okay, so they throw in a very high intensity LED light built into the power pack. Double benefit. You can see all your connectors and everything, and you've got a flashlight somewhere on the bike you could use for road repairs or to warn traffic if something happened, whatever. You've got a separate switch on the other side of the battery, which indicates power and has an on-off switch. So we'll turn that on, and you can get a general state of the battery. And I haven't charged this up for a while. We used it to test the heated footwear and the heated gloves for a bit. So we're about 50%. And it's been about a month since I charged it. It's pretty impressive. You press it and hold it, you get to operational range, and it says, okay, I'm ready to go. Press and hold it again, and it turns off. All right, they didn't stop there. You're out and about, and just about every one of us, including a geezer rider like me, has a cell phone or God knows what else. And I mentioned before a couple times I'm on IT, so I need to charge my phone, so I have my hotspot so I can get on the Wi-Fi and work and blah, blah, blah. So they actually have a USB port put into this thing as well. And this is probably larger than any power brick you're going to have to charge your cell phone and whatnot. So, you know, 5,200 milliamp hour, that's in the upper range of, you know, the bricks people are willing to carry around, even lithium. I mean, this is starting to get some heft to it. I've seen some advertisement for things that are claiming to be 10,000 milliamp hour. You know, we'll see. I actually wrote on it kind of cheesy in a Sharpie, hey, heated pants. And for the wall wart, heated pants. And the reason for this is I've got a drawer full of these things for a variety of reasons. I've got a couple of phone bricks that look similar to this in construction. They're almost the same size, you know, they roughly have the same look to them. Just so I can remember. You know, you don't have to run around with a Sharpie or a label maker to all your stuff, but just realize, especially if you decide to go with stuff like this, like the Mobile Warming line, they do the same thing with the jacket. You may have different amperage battery pack, you may have different amperage charger, and 5 years from now, you might not quite remember what goes with what. So, you know, put some kind of mark on it, you know, put some heat shrink on the cable and write something on it, just something to help you remember. So like I said, there's a lot of detail here. We might even bust this up into a couple of segments just to break it up a little bit. So we talked about the battery that comes with it. Now we're going to get into the pants themselves. So what you get with it is a pretty decent mobile warming manual. We'll open this up. And this is for dual power jacket, vests, and pants. Again, you already know my personal preference. I really just don't see the need to have a vest. A heated vest. I don't think that if you're going to bother to do it, other than cost, you know, if you just can't afford anything else, that you would not just go ahead and get the heated jacket. So, you know, everybody talks about the warming technology, their elements and everything, and mobile warming's no different. They have a diagram showing their warming elements in the garment. They talk about hookup of the garment. You know, a lot of this stuff starting to seem familiar to you if you have been following the series. What's different about these pants, and actually you're going to see it on this page and the next page, is these color-coded temperature ranges and temperature settings. So why is Geezer Rider showing you this stuff? Well, it's easier to see on the jacket there. See that little dot? That's actually an integrated heat controller. And we talked about that briefly. And while it looks like the dot is on the crotch in this diagram, it's not. It's over on the thigh. So this was a deviation for me from what I would normally purchase. And the reason for that was cost. I just couldn't get into a quality heated pant without going this direction, and I'm not sorry. I've opened this up once before. I've taken the pants out and taken a look at it, and I'm very pleased with the quality and construction. There's one big drawback that we're going to get to, and you're going to have to decide whether it's worth it to you to deal with that drawback for yourself, or if it's a non-starter and you're just going to go ahead. So they take a lot of pride and effort to talk about the fact that they have taped all their seams shut to keep them from ripping and keep the elements and water out. They too use Foslight. So this is the reflective piping and reflective areas on the, sorry, I'm not holding that very well, on the garment that will reflect at night in the headlights and whatnot. Again, with it being water resistant, notice they say water resistant and or water repellent, not water impervious. Anything that is 100% water impervious probably does not really breathe, regardless of what they say, and you're going to sweat. Here is a larger diagram of the same thing, and then how they get the water resistance is through their rain guard technology, which we're showing here. They're repelling the rain. Okay. Pretty much the marketer's contribution to the garment. So let's get into it. So, you know, pretty decent retail packaging. For those of you who are green, I don't know whether this plastic is recyclable or not, but the paper inside probably is. You know, it's not overdone. You know, it's obviously made in recent times. So, you know, it came through shipped without incident. It wasn't abraded, it wasn't cut or anything like that. And I think you get a general idea of what's going on if you go to your retailer. This is the product barcode here if you're interested. Hopefully you can make that out. And a little bit of description of it. So let's get into it. And you can just tell a manufacturer cares by the packaging that they sell the thing in. I am actually not a user or a big fan of Apple products, but I've always applauded them on their packaging. They try and be as minimalist and green as possible while still maintaining quality. And these guys use a pretty decent zipper on this thing, right? They could have basically used the closure on a Ziploc bag for all we care, because they could just say, well, you want to take it out and not use it. but they're thinking, hey, maybe this person might want to put it back in here and store it in this. So again, kudos to them for doing that. Making it with quality. So we're going to be in and out of frame a couple times of this because of the length of pants, obviously. So I put the paper back in and everything so you can see. And we'll move this along, up and down and in and out of the frame. So this is actually the front of the garment. You have a couple of you have a hook fastener, then you have a snap fastener, and then you have a zipper, but it's flapped in front, right? You're going to drop down out of this. If you're male, you're going to drop this down like you're in boxer shorts to go to the restroom, right? There's not an actual fly here. This is just to make it loose enough to get it on and off. Once you've done that, there are hip adjustments. And there's a sizing chart, by the way. We talked about sizing charts in the overviews and in the other videos. And Mobile Warming has a sizing chart to tell you if you wear this size in pants or jeans or whatever, here's what you need. So you can cinch it up or loosen it as you see fit. There are obviously pockets here. Inside the pocket is the connection for the power. And you can run the battery. You can put the battery in here. The one negative comment that I've heard about this is that the battery, and I told you it was kind of substantial. I would estimate it weighs about a pound, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. But in the placement of this, so if this is the top of your thigh and this thing's in the pocket, this thing's actually on your thigh bouncing around, depending on your seating position and how tight the top of your thigh is. You know, whether you're crouched on a sport bike or you're more relaxed as a cruiser, that could be a little bit intrusive. I've heard people say that's a detractor. I think there's a fair amount of padding in here. I'm not sure how much that would really bother me. And for my purposes, I'm more likely to use this off the bike than on. So I don't think that's an issue, but I do want to share with you when there are negative comments. And that was one that maybe there would be another, you know, nobody really gave a suggestion as what would be a better location for the battery, but just that this might not be optimal. Then there are the normal Velcroed pockets, like cargo style pockets on the side. And I understand this is hard to see, and I apologize for that. And then you come down to the knee area. When you get to the bottom, we'll hit, speaking of negatives, we'll hit the negative. So you can see down here at the cuff, we have a Velcro closure covering a nice quality zipper that goes up pretty high. You may or may not be able to get your boot through that so that you don't have to put your footwear on after. Some people that's a big deal for. They want to put their footwear on and run it through and then cinch it up over top. I just don't like running my footwear through the liner of a pant. I don't do it with my jeans. I don't do it with khakis or whatever. So that doesn't bother me, but just know that some people say it's a little tight because the diameter up here isn't that much larger than that open diameter down here. The other negative that people talk about, and this was one of the issues that I had in deciding whether I was going to buy this or not, is you'll notice that there is no pocket down here and no wire. So there is no connector sticking out of the bottom of this thing to which you can connect your heated socks or heated insoles to. Aha, right? So this is why we were talking about during the heated footwear review and the gloves, we were talking about that Synergy heat troller. One of the things I might do is use that as a separate circuit to run the heated footwear and run the Y harness down the inside of the leg. So there are more garments now, more heated pants being made for whatever reason that don't have that connector to power the heated insole or the heated sock than I've ever seen before. And I don't know why that is. I don't know, it just floors me that they wouldn't want to pass it through. But I think part of the problem is because this can run off a battery, they're not going to try and run the heated insoles or heated socks and this off this one battery. And they're not going to have you put another one that's this large down in your shin or calf or knee area. So what did attract me to these is you could get into this and use this right away because the heat controller is built right into it. That button there this little rubberized button that's weatherproof, is what turns the heated pants on and off, and it's color coded. So what's good about that is you didn't have anything else to buy. As long as you could wire up power to this, you could be good to go and sit down and start using it. This is probably, I talked about muscle memory in one of the other videos, and just knowing where everything is and how everything's set, so that you're not distracted from the ride, or you know, even at a stoplight, you don't, with your helmet on, it's going to be kind of hard to see this area of the top of your thigh if you look how close it is to the waistband. And this changes color to let you know it's set to. And we talked about the importance of keeping it on the lowest setting that there is, so you draw the least amount of power. I think this placement is poor. This is what I consider a detractor of the garment. I think this should be either able to be Bluetooth or some other way remotely controlled, or be further down the leg, you know, like on the thigh. But obviously it wasn't enough to keep me from buying it. I think it's going to be a workable solution. The other thing that was cool about this is look how high the area above the waistline comes. And I can feel just by checking in here that there are heating elements. So the small of my back, I have that gerbing jacket with that little tailpiece covering my base of my spine, and I've got this thing coming up covering the base of my spine with heating elements. Even if I crouch forward or the jacket rides up because wind blows or whatever the case may be, my back is going to be warm, and that's important. If you've ever had that area be cold, you know it takes like 2 hours to even start to warm up after you get where you're going. So that's cool. The other thing is we talked about the CE armor integrated into some of the garments that you buy now, and this is no exception. This actually does have some armor built into the knees, and if you look underneath of the knee area, there is actually a Velcroed area where you can get to the CE armor. Not too much different than what was in the gerbing jacket. In the gerbing review, kind of a rubberized foam or light rubber in there. Again, you know, we're not going to be able to run this out on the track and survive a 158 mile an hour crash, but this can be the difference between a few bruises or maybe a break, and, you know, abrasions that might get infected, take a long time to heal. You know, it can keep a bad day from being worse. We'll just go with that. I don't know that they make any particular claims about the armor, but it's there, and it doesn't seem to be so thick or heavy that you can't wear these around when you get where you're going. You're not going to look like RoboCop or something. And that leads me to the next thing. You know, obviously the color scheme and that device there is kind of calling itself out when you get to where you're going. I work in a white collar environment, and you know, I already said many times that I'm not overly fashion conscious. I'm not too worried about how things look, but I don't want to be ridiculous either or disrespectful to my business or my coworkers. I wouldn't have an issue wearing this to the office, you know, on a cold day that I rode in, and just have this be my pants and not have to rush to the bathroom stall and change into something else. So there's pockets in the back. If you're like me, you probably don't put anything in your back pockets when you ride. To me, that's a point of fatigue. It's something I learned over many years, not to ride with my wallet in my back pocket, which may be why you see chain wallets in the hip pocket for a bunch of the cruiser guys. You know, like to sit on the wallet. So I tend to keep my wallet not in the back pocket, but they have one here. If you're getting up and walking around, it's available to you. We already talked about the hip pockets, and again, where they had the connector in the one side that you could put the battery in, and then there is the cargo pockets on either side. So I think pretty well made. We talked about the Foz, oh my goodness, how do we phrase this? Foz Light. So they have reflective piping going down the pant leg here. You know, we all know, as far as visibility concerned, the side of the bike is a weak spot for visibility. So you're always looking for something reflective there. And that's what this is going to afford you. And it's in the area that's going to be, you know, straight up and down, roughly from the height of your seat, you know, down to your pegs or your floorboards or the top of your pants. And what I like about this is that it's dark in color, but still reflects at night. That's pretty cool. And I think there's a couple of other areas here and there that have a little piping, or, you know, probably the logo has some reflection in it. But you're sitting on that, so that's not that big a deal. So all in all, there's a fair amount of padding to it. As far as the overall weight is concerned, I would probably say that it's equal to a snow pant in regard to the overall weight. So it's, we're not going to kid ourselves and say that when you go to work and you're wearing these things that it's not like, that it's the same as business clothes or jeans or what have you. But it's not ridiculous either, right? So let's go ahead and connect it. So we have, in the right hip pocket is the power lead. And here we have power coming off of our battery. And again, we're going to continue to use the car battery. I've got the multimeter set up to read the current. And this will probably fall over yet again. We'll just put it here for now. So I'll connect it. And there's no immediate draw, which is a good sign. That means quality electronics. And what I'll do is just prop this up here so you can see. Then I push this button. And hold it for a minute and it lights up. And if we go back to the manual, they have color coding for what color means what. So red is 100%, push and hold should go to orange, which it does. Orange is 75%, push and hold again, we go to green, just 50%. I'll turn it sideways, it should be a little easier to see those colors. One more time should go blue, and blue is 25%. So at each of those settings, let's double back. So I'll hold it again to red. We're reading 1.9 amps basically. That's phenomenal. For a pair of pants with all the elements that are in a pair of pants, that's great. If it's going to keep you warm on high setting at 1.9 amps, that's very efficient technology. So let's just skip all the in-between and go down to blue, which is the low setting. And we're drawing about a 0.5 amp. So we left off basically with the heat control at the lowest setting. It was drawing a 0.5 amp, and we were saying that was phenomenal. That was the sign of a quality garment. And how wonderful that is that you can stay warm and comfortable drawing so little power. So if this draws only 0.5 amp, that's more power you have to run other garments at a low or medium setting that might draw a little more power, right? So after that, we're going to get into, a quick rundown again of the pluses and minuses of the pants. And obviously I bought them anyway, so there wasn't anything detrimental that kept me away from them. But we always want to give a thorough and honest accounting of everything. Even if it's not a drawback for me personally, it might be something you want to consider. So first and foremost, again, no pass through from the cuff down to the, I keep doing this upside down for you, but down to the heated footwear, either the heated insoles or heated sock. So there's one. It could have been possible for them to make this with just another button on the other leg and run the wire out. Obviously that would be additional cost and effort, additional complexity, more to warrant, more power draw. So I can understand from the manufacturer's perspective why they didn't go that route. They would have 2 models of every pant. And maybe the jackets are the same way. I haven't looked at Mobile Warming's jackets if they have the pass-through for the gloves or not. But certainly when plugged into the bike, Mobile Warming, if you're listening, there's one suggestion, and obviously the other is the output at the end of the pants. The fabric, being the same all over, is not any more abrasion resistant in the area of the CE armor. than it is anywhere else on there. So if you do have an issue, chances are, you're going to have to sew this back up somehow. It's not like it's carbon fiber or, ballistic material or something that is more abrasion resistant. But again, this is just a, plan for the worst, hope for the best scenario. So we're looking also that, this can be worn in in public and a more professional environment, for example, without being overly obnoxious. I don't know why the manufacturers you saw on the Gerbing heated jacket, they have that bright yellow and black and white rectangle on the jacket that says, it's hybrid or something like that. It's just a bit over the top and quite frankly unnecessary. And I think they need to tone it down a bit and realize that, people are going to wear this stuff in all kinds of environments, and, not always trying to attract attention to yourself, not the least of which, if you put this on a hanger somewhere, I've been on winter rides where we went to a museum or something. For example, there was a museum that was hosting a motorcycle exhibit, bikes and pictures of bikes and things like that, and medieval armor of all things, all in the same thing. And you have to hang your gear up in the lobby closet. Nobody's really keeping track of all that, right? You don't want stuff calling itself out that hey, this is expensive, come take it type thing. That's a very pessimistic view, and obviously, really nitpicking here, trying to think of things to share with you, to think about. But all of these are, part of owning any garment, and especially, this kind of investment. So all in all, I think I'm going to be happy with this. Going to wear it this fall, winter, spring, ride it through a variety of conditions, make sure riding it in wet conditions or out in the rain, and then report back on it again in the late springtime, or maybe even do a summer segment, and just, lessons learned, how things are holding up, and that'll be for all the components as well. So if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, like it. If you want to see more videos and be alerted when they come out, subscribe. And as always, you're welcome to leave comments or suggestions or contributions in the comments section. And, we'll try and address those as they come through. Ride safe. Namaste.